Now I'm so excited for this video because we have the new Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, the new challenger for smartphone of the year versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max, Apple's latest flagship. This one is going to be wild. Now today I'll be comparing both of them and help you decide which is the better fit for you. So if you're considering leaving the Apple ecosystem for the S23 Ultra, then you should definitely stick to the end of this video. Exciting, isn't it? Let's go. Now just looking at these devices, you can already tell they are premium smartphones. I have the S23 Ultra in this beautiful lavender color that is 6.8 inches tall. It has an aluminum frame as well as having the new Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the front and on the back. Now while it's similar to the S22 Ultra from last year, there is a slight difference as the corners are more rounded than square, which makes it easier to hold without a case. Now that being said, it is a heavy phone weighing about 237 grams, so be careful not to let this fall on the floor or worse, your face. Now at the bottom, you have one of the best speakers on a smartphone. They're loud, it has a punchy bass, and best of all, the sound does not diminish as the volume increases. Now, and right beside it, we have the infamous S Pen, and well, it's infamous depending on who you ask. Now, I'm not gonna waste time here. The S Pen is not for me. I have used it once, maybe twice since I started using the S23 Ultra. Now, I would have preferred it to be removed for a bigger battery. I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Now the 14 Pro Max is also similarly designed to last year. It is a box-like design that is 6.7 inches tall with a stainless steel frame. Now looking side by side with both these phones, stainless steel frame is more visible to smudges and marks if you're looking for it. Now holding the 14 Pro Max is no easy feat. Now even though it weighs 7 grams less than the S23 Ultra, I found myself having to drop my phone a lot of the time, or I had marks on my pinky finger due to the boxy stainless steel frame. Now I will say the iPhone's matte finish at the back feels a lot more smoother than the S23 Ultras and will give fewer fingerprint smudges. Now while the speakers are great, it does not even come close to the S23 Ultra. Now when it comes to the design, the S23 Ultra looks a lot better because of its color choices this year and ultimately feels better in my hand. Now the displays on both these phones are pretty good and you can't really go wrong with either choice even if you're looking for it. They both have an L2PO panel allowing for greater battery management, and on paper there are two things that one does better than the other. The first is the S23 Ultra having a QHD Plus display, and the second is the brightness. The iPhone 14 Pro Max has a max brightness of 2000 nits to the S23 Ultra's 7050 nits. Now while it's higher, I noticed when watching videos on YouTube or Netflix, S23 Ultra appeared brighter and sustained that brightness for a longer period of time than the 14 Pro Max. Now should that be a big deal for you? I don't really think so because both of them are doing a pretty good job. However, if I had to choose one to consume content on, it would definitely be the S23 Ultra because it does not have that dynamic island, which is very intrusive. Now some may argue you notice it less the more you use the phone, and that may be true, but the S23 Ultra just has a more cleaner look. When it comes to unlocking these phones, it's hard to not talk about Face ID. It is honestly one of the best ways to unlock your phone because it is fast and seamless, and if you have a mask or even wear glasses, it works. Sometimes. Now while the S23 Ultra has face recognition, there is nothing really to talk about as it does not even work half the time. You're better off just using the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner that is more secure. I personally feel the S23 Ultra has a better display and better resolution than the 14 Pro Max and just gives me more if that makes sense. Now when it comes to the battery life, it's pretty interesting because for the most part of last year and this year, the iPhone 14 Pro Max has been the battery champ, but there is a new king in town. Most Android phones have a decent battery life, but this is different. I have averaged about 7 to 9 hours of screen on time daily, and I've tried as much as possible to kill this phone. For context, I have my brightness on 100% all the time. I use Google Maps while listening to music. I've had a few video calls. I've also used the S Pen to actually scribble something down and recorded a few videos. Now, I have put this thing through its paces and I'm really impressed with how optimized it is. Now, if you had any doubts about the battery life, then you should not even worry. Now, I'm not saying the Pro Max battery is bad or anything. It will give you a day or even two depending on your usage. However, when it comes to the display and the many features the S23 Ultra has, the battery is pretty impressive. Now let's talk about the software and the performance. Now the iPhone 14 Pro Max has the A16 Bionic chip, while the S23 Ultra has the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip for Galaxy, which is a custom chip. Now this is great because in the past we've only gotten Exynos in Europe while Snapdragon was being done in North America, which was pretty hard to pinpoint the actual performance of the S series devices. Now performance has been great on both these phones and I haven't really seen or felt any issues whatsoever, and both can handle games like first-person shooters to the highest frame rates. That being said, an iPhone just doesn't give me much to work with. I find myself using the S23 Ultra a lot more in terms of my productivity. Now I know Apple created the dynamic island for multitasking purposes, but it does not just do enough for it to warrant a permanent spot at the top of my display. Now I've said this before, but the dynamic island feels like it's Apple's way of solving a hardware issue with software. Now, when you think of multitasking, it's about having about 2 apps open at the same time, or you're having WhatsApp floating in the background while you're on Twitter, or you're using your S Pen as a shutter button when you're taking group pictures. Hell, just a simple thing as swiping left or swiping right to go back is essential. And as a standalone phone, these are just a few things that Apple just cannot give me at the moment. However, there's always an however, it's not all bad and I have to come correct for Apple. With other Apple devices, the iPhone becomes a very powerful tool when paired with your MacBook or your AirPods or your Apple Watch and so many others. The ecosystem comes alive and delivers a seamless workflow that is hard for most people to get out of. Now the cameras are a different story entirely. The S23 Ultra has a crazy lineup this year. It has 4 cameras, but the main wide-angle lens is the main focus with 200 megapixels. Compare that with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which has a 48 megapixel wide-angle lens, and you think this is a mismatch, but you already know megapixels don't tell the full story. From a user perspective, you will get great shots with both these phones. Now when I tested them out, they gave me good color accuracy and vibrancy in good lighting conditions. Although it's something I've said before, the selfie camera on the iPhone makes my skin noticeably darker for some weird reason, while the S23 Ultra kind of brightens everything up, which isn't my true to life tone or my skin color, but I kind of prefer what the S23 Ultra is giving me to what the iPhone gave me. Where the S23 Ultra shines the most is with its telephoto lens and that 100x zoom, whereas the iPhone 14 Pro Max only goes as far as 15x. First of all, 100x is pretty wild, but it gives users the tools for astrophotography if that's really your thing, and I would have shown you, but currently I am facing 30 centimeters of snow outside, so there are no stars at all. Either way, I wouldn't really worry about it as this feature isn't going to be used on a daily basis, but it is a nice to have. Now, video on the S23 Ultra shoots in 8K and is a massive improvement to the S22 Ultra. Even though the iPhone only shoots in 4K, I still prefer its clarity and color balance to the S23 Ultras, and that still makes it the better video camera in any smartphone. But what do you guys think? Without a shadow of a doubt, you cannot really go wrong when it comes to choosing which phone to buy. They both offer something the other does not have, and if you're in the Apple ecosystem but you still want to try something different, by all means switch to the S23 Ultra. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video and you got any value from it, make sure you like and subscribe as this helps me go a long way. Now if you want to see me compare the S23 to the Pixel 7, you can click right here and I will see you there where we talk all things tech.